Our next set of variations are going to be versions that provide a bottom-up driver or an adjustment to the environment and position that influence the foot upward as opposed to a top-down driver in many cases.
Great.
But Lenny, can we start with the ab dolly?
Absolutely.
All right.
So using our essentials, we're seated, obviously, and immediately when you're seated, you're taking so much of the mass out of the foot and ankle complex. So for example, if someone's injured, we know we have to get movement into the tissue. Movement acts as a biopump to allow fluids to exchange. So obviously, if I'm dealing with a professional athlete or somebody that's extremely functional, this would not be a great variable. But for somebody that's had an ankle injury and they're looking now to bridge that gap between isolated strength and conditioning to functionality, this is a perfect place to start a person. So again, you're seated. What I'm going to have you do is just move forward and backwards. So directionally, anterior, posterior. Then progress to right lateral, left lateral. And now think of clockwise, counterclockwise. Now, if at any point in time you see the inability to smoothly translate, as a practitioner, you can simply come around and use your hands as a coach. So let's just say you were doing the clockwise, counterclockwise, and you're having a little difficulty. So they were unsuccessful. Use your hands to then coach better success, as I'm doing right here. Now, what I'd like you to do, Pat, is move a little bit more anteriorly, and now go ahead and do that for me.
Much different.
Much different. You actually can see that you can stress this whole lateral component much more by putting yourself in that position. The same applies in all the different directions. So it doesn't have to be just anterior, posterior, right lateral, left lateral. There's combinations. In fact, why don't you show that to us? Let's do a figure 8.
Okay.
So as Pat's moving through the figure 8 right here, these tissues all are being stimulated along different angles. And again, as you mentioned earlier, it's from the bottom up.
And it really offers, Lenny, an interesting physical experience because I can really feel the bottom of my foot working. Though obviously my other leg muscles are generating the force to move the board. And it brings to mind the reality that all the lower leg muscles, though we think of them as lower leg, they really all become foot muscles.
Absolutely.
And we really can't separate those two.
Yeah, it's kind of like the oceans. We know that there's all these named oceans, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean, but in reality, when you look at the globe, look at the whole, there's only one ocean because there is no separation. So instead of focusing on peroneus longus and gastroc and soleus, think of this region right here as a complex. Mm-hmm. You're able to stimulate the complex, find success by utilizing our observational essentials. Now, if all we did was this, we're not really preparing the person to walk more efficiently, to squat more efficiently, to do our fundamental movements more efficiently. So we're going to have to progress the person. But it's a great starting point. Let's move on to our progression. So here we have a vibration plate. And as we've learned in school, force is mass times acceleration. Well, this is an acceleration plate. So from the bottom up, we're getting an acceleration coming up through the body that the body has to react to. And that reaction will create a stimuli. That stimuli will help improve circulation. But let's do this. Gary and Jessica demonstrated so perfectly a variation where she was on the wall. She used her opposite side to help drive a reaction to the downside. So I'm going to have you do that, but the difference is on an acceleration plate. So go ahead, Pat. So our focus here is on the left side, observing for a reaction while Pat's driving with his right knee, forward and backwards. So again, you're using your observational skill set to observe the reaction of the tibia over the foot. And that's anteriorly. Now we're going to move right lateral and left lateral. Now we can hold the anterior position at end range, we can hold it at mid range, we can hold it at initial range. Those are all distant variables. And then ask our client, in this case Pat, to drive. Now he's going to do a rotational. He's going to do his left rotation, right rotation. As you see here, in right rotation you get internal rotation, and that should happen all the way through, not just the tibia obviously, but watching the foot, the entire foot, from rear foot to mid foot to forefoot change. And as he goes through external rotation, or his right knee driving left rotational, you're going to get external rotation of the tibia, and therefore a supinatory twist in the foot. All while you're getting a bottom-up drive through the acceleration plate.
And is it fair to say on the vibration plate, you're going to get more repetitions vertically than you could ever get otherwise.
Yeah.
That's really part of the value.
Interesting, if the plate's moving 30 times up and down over a 30-second period, the math, I think, on that is about what, 900? That's 900 type reactions that your body has to respond to. So you could call it 900 contractions.
Right.
The body's got to go, whoa, I got to respond to that stimuli. There's a huge benefit to that, because if I ask somebody, especially a progression from injury, to go out and spend the time doing 900 repetitions on the floor, that could be extremely taxing on the system.
Sure.
So this is, in some sense, you could look at this as a lazy way to get a lot of repetitions in.
Right.